You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game, and we will be doing lots of politics, well, a fair amount of politics, but lots of public policy, because we have Jessica handy, and it's, as I was saying, it's handy that she's here because, no pun intended, we were supposed to have Robin Staines. Everybody know Robin Staines is the executive director of Advanced Illinois. She will be here in a few weeks, and so we are very fortunate to have Jessica in because it turns out, can I whisper this? You may know more than Robin Staines about this. Did you hear that, Robin? I'm okay. Probably not, but anyway, she does know a lot about education. She's been doing it for 5 years with the Illinois Democratic Party, Senate Democratic Staff Team Organization. She's been with Stand for Children Illinois for the last 2 years. And so, Jessica, let me just ask you, you've been doing all this stuff. You've been focusing. You wouldn't have joined Stand for Children if you didn't want to stand for children, right?
Right.
Obviously, that's important to you. Improving the quality of education, very important to you. Across the state of Illinois, across the country is what your organization is trying to do, but you're focusing on Illinois. You have 400,000 students in the Chicago public schools. Let's talk about Chicago just for a minute. Folks, we'll be talking about the strike, we'll be talking about the contract, we'll be talking about everything of importance to education. But for now, focus on the Chicago public schools. Focus for making them better. Assume you're not even working for Stand for Children, Illinois. Assume I've got Jessica handy right here. You know the stuff. You want to help these kids. 400,000, I'm told 200,000 are in failing schools, 200,000 are doing okay. Is it time to give them choice? School choice. I'm not asking you as the policy director for Stand for Children. I'm asking you as one reasonably intelligent person to a much more intelligent person, Jessica Handy. You know this stuff. Just say, we're spending $15,000 per kid per year right now on these kids. That's what we spend. You know that, $6 billion budget, 405,000 kids, on average 15,000.
Yeah, I think it's 13.5, but yeah, it's
you want to say 13.5? I'll give you that, okay? We're spending $13,500 currently per kid per year.
Right.
Didn't hear that? Don't have to trust Berkowitz. Trust Jessica Handy, okay? If she says it, it's the truth. 13,500, okay, per kid per year in the public schools. Then you've got about 40,000 or so going to private schools. They're paying out of their own pocket. You know, it only costs $5,000 really to go to a reasonably good school. How do we know? That's what the parochial schools charge. So all those people, you're getting nothing, we're going to give them $5,000, okay? It's a pittance, maybe 200 million total more, nothing. Barack Obama could write the check and send it to Bahram like that, okay? $200 million out of like a $6 trillion debt addition that Barack ran up in the last 6 years. And I don't mean personally, and I understand why he had to do it. We love Barack. Barack sat right in the same chair you are. I don't necessarily agree with him. The point is, folks, you could do this tomorrow. You could say to every kid in the Chicago public schools and the 40,000 or so who are out in the private schools, we treat everybody fairly. The ones who are in, you get $13,500, not to keep, not to put into your pension, not to go buy a house, but to spend at the school of your choice. You want to stay in the public school? Go right ahead. As we'd say, you put the money in this kid's backpack. Excuse my boarding house reach. We put the $13,500 in this backpack. We strap it on the kid. If the kid is and their parents are happy, the $13,500, the kid stays here, the backpack stays there, the cash stays there, nothing changes. But if the kid wants to go out to the private school, okay, the kid goes out, the backpack goes out, the $13,500 goes out. The kids are already the 40,000 at the parochial schools. Yeah, they get 4,000, 4 to 5,000. You know, it's not 13.5, but it's enough. If they happen to be going toward a different school where it's more, fine. We only pay 4,000 or 5,000 of their $10,000 bill. Everybody is a little bit better. Nobody is worse off. You taxpayers, you don't have to pay a dime. Trust me, that $200 million and cover that 4,000 for those kids, we'll get it somewhere, okay? The 13.5 that Jessica said we're spending in the public schools, we're already spending it. I'm sorry, it's a long question, but Jessica, now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Just make my day and say, yes, you'll do it in a heartbeat, not for your organization, but for Jessica Handy.
Now, our organization committed to improving public education so that every child, regardless of their background, can graduate from high school prepared for, with access to a college education. So we're supportive of a host of reforms, and I would say vouchers to private schools is not the highest leverage thing. That's not an issue we work on. We support higher standards for our public schools, the Common Core standards that are coming into place. We support renewed school options in neighborhoods so that every child has access to a high quality public education. So charter schools, to the extent they're high quality and performing well, we support them. We believe they should get equitable funding. If those schools are not doing well, not being held accountable, not meeting their performance metrics, we think they should be closed down. It's autonomy and accountability.
Which ones, the charter schools, should be closed down? Mm-hmm. What about the traditional public schools that are not performing, where 10% of the kids, 20% of the kids are reading at grade level?
Yeah.
Should we shut those down too? Let's be fair, should we?
Yeah.
If we're shutting down the non-performing charter schools, I think we should shut down the non-performing traditional schools. Right?
And Chicago has.
Is that a yes?
It's a yes.
Okay. That's fair enough. Just wanted to hear that.
In a way that's meaningful and thought through to make sure there's a good transition
Well, the
plan
same
for
for
kids.
the charter schools.
Agreed.
If we're going to do it in a meaningful, thoughtful way for the traditional public schools, we should be doing it in a meaningful, thought-through way for the traditional public schools.
Yeah.
Charter. Everybody's treated the same, right? Fair is fair. If you're going to shut down a charter school for non-performing, then you're going to do the same for the traditional public school, right?
Yes. And Chicago's done this.
They have done some. How many in the last 50? Look, Chicago reform came in 1995. That's when Mayor Daley, not the real Mayor Daley, not Richard M. Daley. He was the real, but the son, not the real Mayor Daley, which was Richard J. Daley, as we say, but the son, Richard M. Daley. He was handed control in 1995 of the Chicago Public Schools. He's had it for. Well, he left in 2011 when Rahm came in. He had it for 16 years. He was mayor for 22 years. How many schools did he close when he was mayor? That he had the control. He had the reform. It was his baby. Just curious, how many schools?
I don't know how many schools he
Take
closed.
a wild guess.
But I'll tell you, there are
10, 20, 100?
20 turnaround schools right now. And this is a new development. This has just happened over the last couple of years. And we've got research back now from the Consortium of Chicago School Research that does show higher student outcomes that correlate to a school turnaround. But it's a controversial thing. It means replacing staff. It means reforming the curriculum in the school, bringing in just a new school culture.
What does it mean? So we have how many schools did you say currently that are turnaround schools?
I think there are about 20. I think there's...
Right now, and we're taping the show on September 30th, 2012. So you mean as of September 30th, 2012, we have 20 turnaround Chicago public schools. Is that what you're saying? Just in Chicago? These are traditional schools. These are not charter schools. These are traditional Chicago public schools. And somebody has decided they're not working, and we're going to turn them around.
Right, 123,000 kids.
It's like we called in Mitt Romney because Mitt's a turnaround specialist. Mitt, could you interrupt your campaign for a little bit? Come over to the CPS, put politics aside, and would you turn around these schools? Because he was a turnaround specialist, right? At Bain, right?
Well, you know who else is given federal grants to turn around these schools?
No.
Well, the current Department of Education.
Oh, we're giving them grants? Oh, they're giving out grants.
They're giving out grants, school improvement
so
grants.
So basically, Barack Obama's Department of Education, it's a mini Mitt Romney thing. It's taken schools, they're giving grants to people who, like Rahm, and like the Chicago Public School Superintendent, and they're saying, here, turn the school around, close down, do whatever you have to. If you've got non-performing teachers, get rid of them. If you got non-performing principal, get rid of them, right? Whatever it takes to turn it around. Is that what they've said?
Well, they've said draft a thoughtful plan and submit it and get a grant to do it. But I mean,
put me back to sleep here. Get the shot. Berkowitz is falling asleep. Because,
you don't want to say we're going to blow up the system because something has to come
it's 2012.
next. We have
Kids,
to be thoughtful about this.
Yes. Fail. You won't learn how to read. You'll join a gang. Berkowitz just falling asleep. You want to fall asleep with me? Because it's 2012. Maybe come back in 2020. Come back after Barack's has hit 4 years. Hillary's had her 4 years, maybe 8. Barack's had his 8. The kids, they'll be dead. I mean, do you think it's time to do something? What do you mean, thoughtful? Isn't it Barack Obama who ran on the sense, what was it, the sense of urgency, sense of now? Remember that?
Absolutely.
Sense of now.
It's one of our...
September 30th, 2012.
There is a fierce sense of urgency to reform our schools. Absolutely. We're losing kids every day. You're only 7 years old once. We only have one chance. And when I was a Senate Democratic staffer, I staffed the Education Committee. I worked with...
What'd you say, when you're only what once?
I think I said 7 years old.
No, you got that wrong. Because you follow the leader, the governor of the state of Illinois, Pat Quinn. We love Pat to come on here. I've heard him speak about education like 100 times. You know what he says? You're only 4 once. I have so wanted to say to Pat, that is your wisdom. You're only 4 once. Okay, and you're only 5 once, and you're only 6. I mean, Pat, why don't you come on here and say, damn it, get it right. I'm done with the gangs. I'm done with the murder. I'm done with failing schools. I'm done with kids not knowing how to read. Get them out, okay? If you can't get it right, if you can't teach them, send them somewhere else. Don't, please, Pat, don't say, oh, my thoughts on education is you're only 4 once. I mean, it's so lacking in energy. It's so lacking in thoughtfulness. I mean, am I being too hard on Pat?
I will say I don't think it's thoughtful to say, okay, we just need to move all these kids out, because we have to have the infrastructure for that. We have to have a robust pipeline of quality teachers.
No.
We can't just say blow it up without having a plan in place.
Let me tell you a very quick story, okay? I'm driving along. I'm covering a football game. My phone, where is it? I never have things when I want it. Anyway, okay, you get the idea. I'm holding my smartphone in my hand, okay? And I'm going out there. I got to get to Waukegan. I'm in like Mount Prospect. I'm on my way, and I see the battery's low. I'm going to want to interview the coach after. I'm driving by a Best Buy. I walk in. I don't have to go to a phone store. I go into Best Buy. I say, you got one of those gizmos, you know, where you can charge up your battery, your phone while you're driving? Sure. $26. I'm in and out of there in 5 minutes. I mean, is this a great country or what? I mean, it is. Only in America can I wander into a store now. I can go cover that game. I can go be a reporter. I can be a journalist, because I don't have to be thoughtful and slow and methodical. You know, if we did it the CPS way, I wouldn't have that. We couldn't sell that out of Best Buy. We'd have to have a local monopoly. Jeff, if you want to buy that, go to Mount Prospect and go to this special little store. Or if you live in Evanston, go to Evanston and buy it. Or if you happen to live in Winnetka or in Inglewood. No, that's how we would do it, because that's what we have now, right? We have local monopolies. If you're in Inglewood, you have choice at best, 2 or 3 schools. Probably you have no choice. You go to the neighborhood school you're assigned to, wherever your zip code is. If you're in Winnetka, you go to that school. If you're in Norwood, you go to that school, okay? We have local monopolies, okay? They don't go to Best Buy. They don't have competition. They don't have innovation. They don't have any of this. If you're assigned to school where they can't teach you how to read, and you're in 4th grade and you're reading at the 1st grade level, tough. Stick it out, okay? Tough. And so you know what you do? You wander over there and you join a gang, and you say, that's my best shot. I'm not going to be an academic. I'm not going to learn how to read. And so you go shoot people, and you carve up turf, and you fight over, you know, whose turf it is and who gets to sell drugs. And that's what you do. But if you believed in this guy, Milton Friedman, free to choose, you would say, no, take that $13,005 and give it to me. Give me that little education stamp. Look, you give me food stamps, folks, if I'm poor, right? You don't go to a public grocery. You give them a food stamp. They go to the grocery of their choice. Competition prevails. They get better groceries. They survive. I ask you one more time, and then we'll go on. I promise you.
Okay.
You are Jessica Handy. We've talked before, right? We've talked on the show. We've talked off the show. For the moment, for like 1 minute now, you're not policy director of Stand for Children. You're just one of the brightest, most thoughtful people that I know in education, and I mean that sincerely. You know this stuff backwards and forward, and we'll see that, folks, in the next 15 minutes. I'll shut up. Jessica will talk, okay? But for 1 minute, would you like to give these people choice and have them go to the school of their choice? So if it gets better, fine. If not, they can go back where they were. And you know what, Jessica? If they've got that much purchasing power, schools will spring up so fast your head will turn. They will spring up in Inglewood, they will spring up on the west side of Chicago, and they'll know that there's crime around there, and they'll know they don't have two parents, and smart, intelligent people like who? Like you, Jessica, will be there to say, this is what I think I would do with an admittedly terrible situation, drugs all around. I'm going to teach those kids how to read, where it's going to be like knowledge is power. You've heard of that, KIP, right?
Yes.
Would you like to give them, here, $13,500? Would you take that? Would you take this backpack? Just hold it. It won't hurt you. Would you like to give all of those kids in the Chicago public schools $13,500 and say, go to the school of your choice? Would you?
No. And we are not a voucher group.
No, don't say, please don't say
okay,
we.
If you
say
wanna,
I if you want, but don't say we. I asked you, I didn't ask Stanford children. I'm asking you,
me,
Jessica Handy.
Myself, Jessica
Yes.
Handy, I will say, in my past life, when I was a Senate Democratic staffer, I worked with Senator Meeks. He was the chairman of my education committee.
Okay.
He has influenced
Explain
me.
to the people who Senator Meeks is and what he did. You tell them. I'm shutting up. You're talking.
I will tell him. I worked with him. He ran for office on the platform of a property tax, income tax swap. We needed to get more money to education. We needed to make funding more equitable. I was totally with him. I loved staffing that bill, working with him on that bill. He had such passion for that. And it failed year after year.
Okay.
And then he decided there was another round of shootings, kids dying every day. This is what I'm saying. You only live once.
Right.
You're going to criticize Pat Quinn for saying kids are only for once, but they are, and they will fall through the cracks every day if we don't do something now. And so Meeks said we need to look at how we can use funding more strategically for this. And one piece of that for him, and it was a bill that I staffed, was vouchers for low-income children. It was very focused. We painstakingly drafted that bill so that those private schools, those children would all have to take a state assessment. They would all have to be held accountable. Now, this is the thing. If you're talking about these private schools that are just springing up out of nowhere, I mean, quality is really the most important thing here. How do we know that those schools that are springing up out of nowhere are going to have quality teachers and a quality program?
You know how we know? You know how we know?
How?
Tell the people about your own daughter.
My own daughter?
Yeah, tell them.
I've got a 15-year-old daughter. She's a sophomore.
Who cares the most about that child? Who cares the most?
I would say I do.
Okay.
I would say I do.
And second, who would care second most?
I would say
my
mother.
Your mother, who is here today, okay?
My mother, yeah.
Yes. Jessica and Lynn Handy care the
Right.
most about your
Right.
daughter, right?
Right.
And you would do anything to provide.
Right.
And you would, the point is, if you took your kid and your daughter went to a private school, if you had been in a failing school, had her in a failing, and you know what would make it accountable? You and your mom. If you kept that child, your daughter, in that private school, we don't need tests, because you know when your daughter's learning how to read, you know when your daughter's learning how to write, you know when your daughter's saying do math. I'm not saying we shouldn't test her.
Oh, we
I'm not
absolutely
saying,
should.
we should, but you see my point? I trust you, Jessica Handy, and your mom way more than I trust some stranger saying that school's doing well and it's fine and dandy. Do you see my point?
I
what
see
makes
your
it
point.
accountable is you can take your kid out of the school if they're not performing. They can't do that now. And the school, that private school, they know that. They can lose you and their money in a heartbeat. That's what makes them accountable.
Except
This was free to choose. Here, you ever read this, Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman?
I have not.
Here, I give it to you. Would you promise to read it?
I
As you have time, right?
as I have time.
The point is, he came up with the idea of school vouchers in 1955, he being Milton Friedman, okay? He came up with it. And then he wrote this book in 1962. This is the 50th anniversary. He would be 100 years old if he were still alive, Milton Friedman. He bet what? He bet on the accountability of private schools, more so than public schools. And most importantly of all, Jessica, and then we'll go on. Most importantly of all, you can't go anywhere but up. You cannot do as badly as the public schools have done, in large part in the last 17 years under reform, okay? 17 years under. How many kids have not learned how to read or write or do math? How many kids have dropped out because it was hopeless? How many kids have gone to drugs? How many kids have made this the murder capital of the world, Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, as you use your vitriol and your venom to attack Chicago vouchers, as you, on the other hand, say charters are great even though voucher schools are bad? Think about that, Rahm. Okay.
Well, I'll explain that. I mean, did you hear what I said about charter schools? Where the two fundamental pillars of charter schools are you have your autonomy on the one hand. You don't have to follow most state mandates. You can innovate. Okay. You can be flexible in this. But then you're also held accountable. Kids are tested. You are authorized by an authorizing agent, either the local school district.
Oh, the local school district who's failing.
Or the independent
The local school district who's failing and not providing a good education, they get to decide who their competition will be. Oh, so if you're an auto dealer who's failing, before you have new competition coming in, you get to decide. Now, you would never do that, Jessica, would you?
We also have an independent authorizing commission.
Not also. Knock that incumbent out of there. I don't want them to have, and I don't want them to any say whatsoever.
Okay, fine. Okay. But we're going to have autonomy and accountability no matter where that accountability comes from, and we can differ.
I'll do it in a heartbeat. I would prefer to do it my way. I'll do it in a heartbeat. Now would you take the school vouchers? Now would you take the backpack? Now would you say, yes, they can have choice? I'll do it. Accountability. I gave it to you. Would you say yes, please? Make my day.
Vouchers is not our issue.
I am not uncomfortable. I don't want to hear. Say you can say not my issue. But I'm talking to you just as Jessica Handy, not policy director.
It's not my issue either. I don't think it's the highest leverage thing to do for kids. I'm not uncomfortable with the Meeks bill by the time all that thought was put.
You supported.
I staffed it
and
with
you
him,
supported,
and I worked
and you
with
wanted
him
him to win,
and
you wanted it to pass, and it passed the state senate. It didn't pass the House because you had a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of Republicans who don't give a rat's ass about low-income kids.
I would love to tell you about what we do support and ways that we do.
But you supported that bill. You supported that bill, and you wanted Meeks' bill to pass, right?
I personally worked on that bill.
You wanted it to pass.
And felt comfortable with that bill.
And you wanted school vouchers for those students in the bottom decile, right?
I was not uncomfortable with those, with vouchers structured that way.
So you wouldn't be uncomfortable with 200,000 students having that, right? Structured the way you want it, right? Structured the way you want it, with accountability, you wouldn't be uncomfortable with school vouchers.
That is,
say it.
No, that is not our issue. To have a very
would you not stop saying R? I don't care about R.
It is not my issue either.
Okay.
It is
Enough.
Okay.
Enough.
Okay. I know it's your thing. I know you're very passionate
only about 8 minutes left,
vouchers,
so let's
and I
go quickly
appreciate
to the contract.
Okay.
The Chicago Teachers Union CPS contract. Will it improve things in the next year in terms of performance?
Absolutely.
Okay. Say, I'm a bad teacher, I'm in a bad school, it's not performing. Tell me how this contract makes it better this year, in 1 year. By September 30th, 2013, I want to know how that school gets better as a result of the contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, kids are getting a longer day, first and foremost.
How many more minutes
Elementary school.
How many more minutes are the kids getting in?
So they're going to be in for another hour and 15 minutes.
How many more minutes of instruction time are they getting in that school?
They're going to get
K through 8.
The half-hour prep time that teachers had without kids there is now moved to the middle of the day.
No, excuse me. How much more instruction time, listen to my question, how much more instruction time will kids get in grades K through 8?
They're going to have 32 minutes.
32 minutes.
Added to the teacher's prep period.
32 minutes.
They're also going to have a recess.
32 minutes of instruction time, and that's what they're getting out of this grades K through 8, right?
They are getting a day that has gone from 5 hours and 45 minutes to 7 hours.
No, but the instruction time they're getting
is
32 minutes. No, I just say yes. I want to know, did I get that right?
Yes.
32 minutes.
But let's think about the job of our education system is not to cram in as much core instruction without giving our kids an enriched curriculum.
Yeah,
our
now they have a little lunch period
because the teachers didn't have recess for years.
Yeah, so they'll have better recess and they'll have more lunch, and I say that's all to the good, and I agree with you, as a result of the contract or as a result of the reform legislation that you and others worked for last year.
Yeah, Senate Bill 7 and the year before that, the Performance Evaluation Reform Act set a skeletal framework for some reforms that needed to happen.
And this contract.
And they've implemented that in this contract.
Okay, so they get that.
Mm-hmm. The other critical thing that's going to happen is that we're going to have real evaluations for the first time in years of teachers and principals.
And you're going to use standardized tests, and you're going to use the improvement on the standardized tests in that school as a way of assessing the evaluation of some teachers. For the first year, the tenured teachers, nothing changes, right?
For the first, tenured teachers only have to be evaluated every other year, so
Okay,
that was
so for the
something that
first
they
year,
worked out in the contract.
If you're a tenured teacher, this didn't mean anything to you folks. Just go to sleep, screw up, we're not going to do anything to you.
No, not at all.
Now, as a result of this contract, we're not going to treat you any differently than we would have if this contract hadn't passed, right?
No, that is not true at all.
For the first year? For the
because-
first year?
Did you ever read The Widget Effect in 2009? It was this great report that found 0.4% of our teachers were getting unsatisfactory ratings. And basically what we could tell by that is that they weren't getting evaluated.
No, but the tenured teachers are not going to be affected by this
By the
standardized
student
test.
growth
Yeah,
metric.
okay.
Well,
That's all.
but
Why not?
that's teacher practice
Okay.
is the other piece of that, and that's critical.
And
they have
that's new.
revamped
That's
that.
new for the tenured teachers. So I
Teachers-
stand corrected. You made a
Teachers will
point.
have an
Andy won, Berkowitz nothing. Okay, you got a point there.
all right.
All right, and the non-tenured teachers will have standardized tests, improvement of standard tests considered, but you know what? The percentage didn't change as a result of the contract. That was all done by the legislation last year. Rom, your contract and your ads are just completely false. Because Rom, tell the people the truth. Standardized tests, use of that, performance, the improvement, all done by legislation, not by your contract, Rom.
Do you think it's more important to get student growth in at a super high percentage than it is to be thoughtful and get it done right in a way that has buy-in?
I mean, I think we
we're
shouldn't
not lying
lie.
to people.
Well, tell them the contract didn't do it. The legislation did.
Will phase in student growth over
okay,
time
over
instead
time.
of doing it immediately.
All right, and principals, if they're not performing, the superintendent can say goodbye, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little more easily than they could before the contract or before the legislation or both?
I mean, the contract didn't apply to principals. Principals aren't in the teachers'
Okay,
bargaining
so there's
unit.
nothing there. So that's just the reform legislation that
And
affected
Chicago,
that.
actually, districts across the state look at Chicago and say, wow, we really envy their principal selection process. They have a pretty rigorous process for selecting principals and holding them
So
accountable.
they're doing okay, you think, on that? The most
Fair.
important thing that has to happen here, teachers have to be evaluated. The ones who are good, and there are plenty of good teachers, plenty, in the Chicago public schools. They need to be rewarded better. We need to have more merit pay. They need to be recognized. And the ones who aren't performing as well, they need to say, let go. You agree?
Well, you can't fire your way to Finland. I think part
No,
of
but
this.
you try to improve, but if we
You try
can't
to
improve them, then they
exactly,
have to be let
exactly.
go. Some people can't be improved. Look, I've been trying to do this show for 15 years. I'm not getting any better. I just can't be improved, right?
Well, I think
So
this,
I admit it, okay? I'm not getting any better, okay?
I think the most disheartening thing about this whole contract was, when I listened to Karen Lewis talk, she's passionate. I believe she cares about kids. She talks about poverty and how our kids sometimes come to school without having eaten dinner the night before, witnessing violence in their neighborhoods, lots of social factors outside the teacher's control. And I'm with her up to that point. I agree. Okay. And then to say, okay, we're done. Let's just be done. Our teachers can't be held accountable for that. That's where we differ.
Right.
Because we
only
have
a stupid,
to get
only a stupid person would try. I'm not saying Karen's stupid, but only a stupid person would
Yeah,
try to
she's
sell
not.
it. We're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, but I so much want to thank our guest, Jessica Handy. I so wish we had another half hour. You'll come back?
Sure.
Absolutely, because next time we'll devote the show to all those topics that we didn't get to. But they can find out a lot by going to standforchildren.org or stand.org or stand.org/Illinois, right? Mm-hmm. And they can find what? What can they find on that site?
We've got a great What We Stand For document where it walks through all of our policies, all of our ways that we would love to improve education.
What do you stand for the most? Stand for Children. Stand for Children. What does it stand for the most? You got like 30 seconds.
I would say closing the academic achievement gap so that all kids can graduate from high school.
And nothing's
prepared for
happened in
college.
Chicago for the black-white achievement gap has basically not been changed under Arnie Duncan. It hasn't been changed since. Last 15 years, nothing, right?
We've made some great strides lately.